Chosen one, what if the uneasy feeling you've been carrying about a certain woman was never your imagination? What if it wasn't fear, overthinking, or coincidence, but a quiet warning from heaven? Today, Archangel Michael brings a message that could completely change the way you see this connection. This isn't about judging anyone or living in fear. It's about understanding why God allowed this woman to enter your life, why your spirit has refused to ignore certain signs, and what heaven is trying to reveal before it's too late. If you've been thinking about one particular woman again and again, if something has never felt completely settled even though you couldn't explain why, then stay with me until the very end. Michael says the answers you're searching for won't come through one dramatic event. They will come through the hidden patterns you've been overlooking all this time. Before we begin, take a quiet moment and invite God's wisdom into your heart. Ask Him to remove confusion, replace fear with discernment, and help you receive only what aligns with His truth. Because if this message has found you today, Michael says it is not by accident. Heaven often speaks to those who are finally ready to listen. Now let us begin. Chosen one, I am Archangel Michael, and I stand before you with a message that carries both wisdom and protection. This message is not meant to fill your heart with suspicion. It is meant to fill your spirit with clarity. There is a difference. Many people believe that God only speaks through extraordinary miracles, loud voices, or undeniable signs. But often, His first warnings arrive in complete silence. They appear as an uneasy feeling that refuses to disappear, a question that keeps returning to your mind, a loss of peace you cannot explain. For some time now, there has been a woman connected to your journey. Perhaps you met her unexpectedly. Perhaps she entered your life during a season when you needed encouragement. Perhaps she seemed familiar from the very beginning, as though destiny itself had arranged the meeting. Yet despite everything that appeared right on the surface, something deep within you remained unsettled. You tried to ignore it. You told yourself you were imagining things. You convinced yourself that you were simply thinking too much. But no matter how many times you dismissed the feeling, it quietly returned. Chosen one, heaven wants you to understand something very important today. God never asks you to ignore the peace He has placed inside your spirit. That quiet voice within you is not your enemy. When your relationship with God grows stronger, your discernment begins to awaken. You start noticing things that once escaped your attention. You begin sensing spiritual realities that cannot always be explained with human logic. This is not fear. This is not anxiety. This is spiritual awareness. Many people confuse discernment with negativity, but Michael says true discernment is one of heaven's greatest gifts. It protects your calling before danger ever becomes visible. It guards your heart before confusion takes control. It reveals what appearances often hide. The woman connected to this message may not be a cruel person. She may not even realize the role she is playing in your life. This message is not about labeling someone as evil. It is about understanding why God allowed this connection to exist in the first place. Every person who enters your life carries a purpose. Some arrive to encourage your faith. Some arrive to strengthen your character. Some arrive to expose weaknesses that still need healing. And some arrive to teach you how valuable your peace truly is. Michael says you have spent too much time asking whether this woman is the right person. But heaven is asking a different question. What has this connection been teaching you about yourself? Have you become more peaceful? Have you grown closer to God? Have you become stronger in wisdom? Or have you found yourself constantly searching for answers while your peace slowly disappeared? That question matters, because God's direction never requires you to abandon the peace He has placed inside your spirit. Think carefully. After spending time with this woman, what remained in your heart? Was there confidence or confusion? Did your faith become stronger, or did your thoughts become heavier? Did you feel closer to your purpose, or more distracted than ever before? Michael says these answers reveal far more than words ever can. Many people become captivated by beautiful conversations. God pays attention to lasting fruit. Words can impress. Promises can inspire. Emotions can be powerful, but lasting peace cannot be manufactured. Peace is heaven's signature. Whenever God is leading you toward his purpose, even difficult seasons carry an inner stability that cannot be explained. But when something repeatedly pulls you away from his direction, your spirit begins sending quiet warnings long before your eyes recognize the truth. That is exactly what has been happening. Your spirit noticed something your mind could not yet explain. You sensed inconsistency before you could identify it. You felt hesitation before you understood the reason. And now heaven is beginning to uncover what has remained hidden. Do not rush. Do not accuse. Do not allow emotions to control your decisions. Michael says wisdom always moves more slowly than fear. Fear demands immediate action. Wisdom patiently observes until truth reveals itself. This season is not about forcing answers. It is about allowing God to remove the veil one layer at a time. Very soon, conversations will begin making more sense. Unexpected situations will reveal hidden motives. Small details you once overlooked will suddenly become impossible to ignore. You will look back and realize that heaven had been speaking to you from the very beginning. Not through loud announcements, but through repeated moments that quietly asked you to pay attention. Chosen one of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that every relationship must continue forever. That is not how God works. Some people are assignments, some are lessons, some are confirmations, and some become mirrors that reveal areas where you still need spiritual growth. Perhaps this woman was sent to teach you stronger boundaries. Perhaps she was sent to help you recognize the value of discernment. Perhaps she appeared so that your dependence on God would become greater than your dependence on human approval. If that is true, then nothing about this connection has been wasted. Even the confusion carried purpose. Even the unanswered questions carried purpose. Even the silence carried purpose. Because God has been preparing you for a future where discernment will become one of your greatest strengths. Michael says your calling is too valuable to be guided only by emotions. Your future requires wisdom. Your purpose requires clarity. And your heart deserves peace. Never apologize for protecting the peace that God has given you. Never feel guilty for choosing wisdom over confusion. Never mistake spiritual maturity for coldness. A heart led by God can remain compassionate while still recognizing when it is time to step back. As this revelation continues, something even deeper is about to be uncovered. Because the first warning came through your peace. But the second warning has been hiding inside repeated patterns that many chosen ones overlook until it is almost too late. Chosen one, Archangel Michael says there is something heaven wants you to understand before you take another step forward. The greatest dangers to your calling rarely arrive looking like danger. They often arrive wearing the appearance of comfort, familiarity, or even opportunity. That is why discernment is more valuable than appearances. Human eyes are easily impressed, but a spirit that walks closely with God learns to recognize what cannot be seen. For a long time, you have searched for certainty through visible evidence. You wanted one undeniable sign that would answer every question at once. But Michael says God rarely works that way. Instead of revealing everything in a single moment, he uncovers the truth little by little, allowing your wisdom to grow alongside the revelation. If he showed you the entire picture before your heart was prepared, you might respond with emotion instead of understanding. So heaven has been teaching you patiently, one lesson at a time. Think about the moments that seemed insignificant when they first happened. A conversation that left you strangely unsettled. A promise that sounded convincing but never became reality. A feeling that whispered, "Slow down," even while everything around you appeared perfectly normal. At the time, you may have dismissed those moments because they seemed too small to matter. Yet Michael says heaven often hides its greatest warnings inside the smallest details. Nothing God does is without purpose. Even the delays carried purpose. Even the unanswered prayers carried purpose. Even the silence you struggled to understand was preparing you for this very moment. Chosen one, there is a reason your spirit refused to become completely comfortable. While your mind searched for explanations, your soul was already recognizing a pattern. Every experience was adding another piece to a puzzle you could not yet see. Now those pieces are beginning to connect. Michael says one of the clearest signs that God is protecting GU is when he refuses to let your spirit settle into something that is not meant for your future. You may have prayed for peace, only to find yourself becoming even more restless. First, that seemed confusing. But what if the restlessness was not the absence of God's presence? What if it was evidence of His protection? God loves you too much to allow false peace to lead you away from your purpose. Sometimes the discomfort you have been trying to escape is the very thing heaven is using to redirect your steps. Do not mistake divine interruption for rejection. Some closed doors are acts of mercy. Some delayed answers are acts of protection. Some uncomfortable feelings are invitations to seek God's wisdom more deeply than before. Chosen one, ask yourself this question with complete honesty. Since this woman entered your life, have you become more anchored in your relationship with God? Or have you spent more time trying to understand her than listening to Him? Michael says many chosen ones unknowingly place their attention on people while heaven is calling them back into God's presence. The enemy is not always trying to destroy your faith. Sometimes he simply wants to distract your focus. If your thoughts become consumed by confusion, you have less strength to pursue your calling. Your purpose requires a clear mind. Your assignment requires a peaceful heart. That is why heaven is speaking now. Not because God wants you to fear this woman, but because He wants you to recognize anything that repeatedly competes for the peace He has already given you. Notice how often your heart has searched for explanations that never fully satisfied you. Each answer seemed to create another question. Each moment of clarity was followed by fresh uncertainty. Michael says confusion has a pattern, but so does truth. Confusion keeps you trapped in circles. Truth moves you forward. Confusion steals your energy. Truth restores your strength. Confusion demands constant analysis. Truth brings quiet confidence. This is why the Lord is inviting you to stop chasing answers that only He can reveal. There are battles you were never meant to fight with your own understanding. There are mysteries that become clear only when you surrender them completely into God's hands. Heaven is not asking you to accuse anyone. Heaven is asking you to observe. Watch what repeats. Watch what produces peace. Watch what consistently drains your spirit. Because time has a remarkable way of exposing what appearances successfully conceal. Michael says character is never revealed in a single impressive moment. Character is revealed through consistency. It is revealed by what remains the same when emotions fade and circumstances change. This is why God is slowing your steps. He does not want you making permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. Chosen one, there is something beautiful beginning inside your spirit. The version of you that constantly doubted yourself is slowly disappearing. The version of you that ignored God's quiet whispers simply to keep other people happy is coming to an end. A new level of discernment is being born within you, and with it comes a deeper peace that no human opinion can take away. But this awakening also brings another revelation, one that many chosen ones overlook until it changes the direction of their lives forever. Michael says the next sign is not found in what this woman says. It is found in what your life becomes whenever she is near. And when heaven reveals that truth, the reason God allowed this connection will become clearer than ever before. Chosen one, Archangel Michael says the next revelation is not about looking at this woman through the eyes of emotion. It is about looking at your own life through the eyes of heaven. Many people spend years trying to understand someone else's heart while never noticing what that connection has been producing inside their own spirit. Today, God is asking you to shift your focus. Stop asking, "Who is she?" Begin asking, "Who am I becoming because of this connection?" That question changes everything. Every relationship leaves a spiritual imprint. Some people inspire courage. Others awaken wisdom. Some strengthen your faith. Others slowly drain your confidence without either of you realizing it. This is why discernment is so important. It looks beyond appearances and examines fruit. Michael says fruit never lies. Words can be carefully chosen. Emotions can rise and fall. Circumstances can change overnight. But spiritual fruit always reveals the direction of a connection. Think carefully. Since this woman entered your life, what has become more noticeable? Has your relationship with God become stronger? Have you found yourself praying with greater confidence? Have you discovered a deeper sense of peace? Or have your days become filled with uncertainty, overthinking, emotional exhaustion, and endless questions that never seem to find lasting answers? Chosen one, do not answer quickly. Sit quietly before the Lord and allow Him to reveal the truth. God is never offended by honest questions. In fact, many of His greatest servants received clarity only after they were willing to ask Him sincerely for wisdom. Michael says heaven is not exposing this situation to create distance between you and another person. Heaven is removing anything that stands between you and your purpose. Never forget that. Your calling is valuable. Your peace is valuable. Your future is valuable. The enemy understands this, which is why distraction is often more effective than destruction. If he cannot stop your destiny, he will try to keep your attention fixed on confusion until you become too exhausted to move forward. But today, that cycle is ending. God is restoring your spiritual vision. You are beginning to recognize the difference between emotional attachment and divine alignment. There is a difference. Attachment often says, "I cannot let this go." Alignment says, "Lord, your will is greater than my feelings." Attachment fears losing people. Alignment trusts God with every relationship. Attachment clings to uncertainty. Alignment rests in God's timing. Michael says one of the greatest signs of maturity is learning to release what you cannot control. You were never called to change another person's heart. You were called to guard your own. For too long, you have carried responsibilities that never belonged to you. You tried to explain actions that were not yours to explain. You searched for reasons behind behavior that only God fully understands. You carried emotional burdens that slowly stole your joy. But heaven is lifting that weight today. God is saying, "You do not have to solve every mystery. You only have to trust me." Chosen one, listen carefully. There are seasons when God allows uncertainty because uncertainty exposes where your trust truly rests. If your security depends on another person's choices, peace will always feel temporary. But if your security rests in God's guidance, even unanswered questions cannot steal your confidence. That is the peace Michael wants to restore within you. A peace that is not controlled by someone's attention. A peace that is not dependent on someone's approval. A peace that remains steady because it is rooted in God's promises instead of human behavior. As this peace grows, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop chasing clarity. Instead, clarity begins finding you. Conversations suddenly make sense. Hidden motives become easier to recognize. What once felt complicated becomes surprisingly simple. Not because people changed overnight, but because your spiritual eyes have opened. Michael says there are moments when God answers prayers by changing circumstances. Then there are moments when He answers by changing the person who prayed. Perhaps this is one of those moments. Perhaps the miracle is not that this woman will suddenly become different. Perhaps the miracle is that you will finally see with wisdom instead of emotion. When that happens, fear disappears. Confusion loses its power. The pressure to force answers fades away. Because truth carries its own peace. Chosen one, Michael wants you to remember something that many people forget. You are deeply loved by God. A loving father does not warn his children to Friday, guide them. He warns them to protect them. Every whisper you have sensed, every hesitation you have felt, every prayer that seemed unanswered, may have been heaven gently leading your steps away from future pain and toward a greater purpose. One day, you may look back on this season and thank God that He did not allow everything to happen according to your own understanding. His delays protected you. His silence strengthened you. His wisdom preserved your future. And now, another layer of the truth is about to be revealed. Because Michael says there is one final pattern that almost every chosen one overlooks. A pattern that quietly reveals whether a connection is leading you closer to God's calling or slowly pulling you away from it. When you recognize this final sign, everything that once seemed confusing will begin to fall into place in a way you never expected. Chosen one, Archangel Michael says the final pattern is not hidden in dramatic moments. It is revealed through the direction your life begins to take. Many people spend years asking God to reveal whether someone belongs in their future, while overlooking the evidence that has quietly been unfolding all around them. They wait for a supernatural sign, yet heaven has already been speaking through the direction of their own spiritual journey. God is not the author of confusion. He is the author of peace. This does not mean life will always be easy. It does not mean every relationship will be perfect. Challenges will come. Disagreements will happen. Difficult seasons are part of every human experience. But Michael says there is a difference between temporary challenges and a constant atmosphere of confusion. One strengthens your faith. The other slowly weakens your spirit. Chosen one, think about your life before this connection and compare it with where you are today. Has your vision become clearer? Or has your purpose become clouded? Have your prayers become stronger? Or have they become filled with endless questions? Have you found yourself growing in confidence? Or constantly doubting the wisdom God placed within you? These are not small questions. They reveal the direction of your spiritual journey. Michael says every connection is taking you somewhere. Some relationships move you closer to God's purpose. Others slowly pull your attention away from it without you even realizing it. This is why heaven is asking you to stop measuring relationships only by emotions. Measure them by direction. Direction reveals destiny. A single step may not seem important, but thousands of small steps always determine where a person eventually arrives. If every season with someone leaves you farther from God's peace than before, do not ignore that pattern. If every attempt to move forward only brings you back into the same cycle of uncertainty, ask the Lord what He has been trying to teach you, because God never wastes a lesson. Michael says something powerful is happening right now. The Holy Spirit is restoring your spiritual confidence. There was a time when you questioned every feeling. You searched for someone else to tell you what your own spirit already knew. You ignored the gentle whisper inside your heart because you feared making the wrong decision. But those days are ending. God is raising you into a season where His voice becomes more familiar than the noise around you. When that happens, you stop depending on opinions. You stop chasing constant reassurance. You stop looking for signs in every conversation. Instead, you begin walking with quiet confidence because your trust is no longer in people. Your trust is in God. Chosen one, never forget this truth. The Lord does not remove people from your life to leave you empty. He removes what no longer fits the future He is preparing for you. Sometimes that process feels painful because you cannot yet see what He sees. You only see the present. God sees your tomorrow. He sees every conversation that has not happened yet, every opportunity that has not appeared yet, every blessing that is already moving toward you. That is why His guidance is always greater than your understanding. Michael says there are moments when obedience feels like loss, but later you discover it was actually protection. You thought God was taking something away. In reality, He was making room for something far greater. Perhaps this woman entered your life to awaken discernment you never knew you possessed. Perhaps she became the mirror that revealed where your boundaries needed to become stronger. Perhaps through this connection, God taught you to value His peace above every human relationship. If that is true, then nothing has been wasted. Not a single tear, not a single prayer, not a single sleepless night. God has been using every experience to shape the person you are becoming. And Michael says that person is far stronger than the one who began this journey. You no longer need every answer today. You no longer need every mystery explained. You no longer need to force clarity, because heaven is already revealing it one step at a time. Notice what happens over the coming days. Pay attention to the conversations that seem ordinary. Watch the situations that unfold naturally. Do not force anything. Do not manipulate anything. Simply observe. Truth has a remarkable way of revealing itself without human effort. God does not struggle to expose what needs to be seen. At the appointed time, what was hidden comes into the light. What once seemed complicated becomes unmistakably clear. And when that moment arrives, you will realize that Michael was never trying to make you suspicious. He was preparing you to become wise. There is a profound difference. Suspicion creates fear. Wisdom creates peace. Suspicion isolates. Wisdom protects. Suspicion keeps looking backward. Wisdom gives you the courage to move forward. Chosen one, heaven is not asking you to harden your heart. Never lose your kindness. Never lose your compassion. Never stop believing in the good that God has placed inside people. But at the same time, never sacrifice the peace God has given you just to hold on to a connection that He may be asking you to surrender. The strongest believers are not those who cling to everything. They are those who trust God enough to release whatever He asks them to place into His hands. And Michael says you are entering that season now. A season where discernment becomes stronger than emotion, where faith becomes greater than fear, where truth becomes louder than confusion, because the final revelation is about to change everything. It is not only about this woman. It is about the incredible future God has been protecting all along. And when you finally see that future through heaven's eyes, you will understand why every warning, every delay, every unanswered question, and every quiet whisper was preparing you for something infinitely greater than you could have imagined. Chosen one, Archangel Michael says this is the moment when everything begins to come together. For so long, you have searched for answers outside of yourself. You looked at conversations. You examined actions. You replayed memories in your mind, hoping that one forgotten detail would finally explain everything your heart had been feeling. But Michael says the greatest revelation was never hidden in another person. It was growing inside you. God has been transforming your heart throughout this entire journey. The woman connected to this message was never meant to become the center of your story. She became part of the process that God used to strengthen your discernment, deepen your faith, and prepare you for what lies ahead. That is why heaven keeps reminding you not to become trapped in bitterness. Bitterness clouds spiritual vision. Forgiveness restores it. If this connection brought disappointment, choose forgiveness. If it brought confusion, choose wisdom. If it brought painful lessons, choose growth. Never allow yesterday's experience to become tomorrow's prison. Michael says many chosen ones delay their own blessings because they continue carrying relationships that God has already asked them to place into His hands. Release what you cannot control. Release the need to understand every detail. Release the burden of trying to change what only God can change. When your hands are full of yesterday, they cannot receive what heaven is sending tomorrow. Chosen one, hear these words carefully. You have not been abandoned. You have been protected. Some prayers were answered in ways you did not recognize. Some doors remained closed because greater doors were already being prepared. Some people drifted away because they could not walk into the season God was calling you toward. One day, when you look back on this chapter, you will not say, "Why did this happen to me?" You will say, "Thank you, Lord, for seeing what I could not see." That day is closer than you realize. Michael says your future is not built on confusion. It is built on truth. It is built on peace. It is built on obedience. The Lord is leading you into a season where your decisions will no longer be driven by fear, loneliness, or uncertainty. Instead, they will be guided by wisdom that comes directly from heaven. This is what spiritual maturity looks like. Not having every answer, but trusting God even before every answer arrives. Chosen one, there may come a moment very soon when something happens that confirms everything your spirit has been sensing. A conversation may unfold unexpectedly. Someone may reveal information you never knew. A hidden pattern may become impossible to deny. Or perhaps nothing dramatic will happen at all. Perhaps the greatest miracle will be the deep peace that suddenly fills your heart, removing every question that once kept you awake at night. Michael says never underestimate the miracle of peace. Peace is one of God's greatest gifts. When heaven gives you peace, protect it. Do not trade it for temporary emotions. Do not sacrifice it to keep everyone else comfortable. Do not ignore it because someone fails to understand your decision. Your calling is too valuable. Your future is too important. Your relationship with God is worth more than any connection that repeatedly steals the peace He has placed inside your spirit. Walk forward with confidence. Walk forward without resentment. Walk forward knowing that every lesson has made you stronger than before. The woman connected to this message may have been part of your journey, but she is not the author of your destiny. God is, and the one who began a good work in your life is faithful to complete it. So stop fearing what lies ahead. Stop looking behind you. Stop carrying burdens that heaven never asked you to carry. Lift your eyes toward God. Trust His timing. Trust His wisdom. Trust His protection. Because the road ahead holds greater peace than the road behind. Michael says the season of confusion is ending. The season of clarity has begun. The season of questioning is giving way to the season of confidence. The season of uncertainty is being replaced by the assurance that God has been guiding your steps from the very beginning. Chosen one, never forget this final truth. When God warns you, it is never because He wants to frighten you. He warns you because He loves you. He redirects you because He has a purpose for you. He protects you because your future matters. And every delay, every unanswered prayer, every quiet whisper, every difficult lesson has been preparing you for the blessings that are now drawing near. So walk into this new season with faith instead of fear, with wisdom instead of confusion, with peace instead of anxiety. And remember, no matter who comes into your life, no matter who leaves your life, the hand of God remains upon you. His angels continue watching over you. And His plan for your future is far greater than anything you leave behind. May the Lord fill your heart with wisdom, strengthen your discernment, surround you with His perfect peace, and guide every step you take from this day forward. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. If this message spoke to your heart today, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who may need this message, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next word of encouragement that heaven may have prepared for you. And before you leave, write in the comments, Lord, I choose your peace over confusion. May God bless you, and may Archangel Michael continue to stand beside you as you walk in wisdom, courage, and faith. Until next time, stay strong, stay prayerful, and remember, you are never walking alone.